So hello guys again, prepared again with two types of sherry, and we'll be explaining how these two are, mostly to understand the biological agent and the oxidative agent. Okay, so how are these two sherry made? Is with the soleras and the criaderas. It's one of the most important ways of it that is made. Now we'll be understanding how these two types of sherry are aged, what type of grape do they use, to what percentage of alcohol is fortified, so how much alcohol, distilled alcohol, is added, and what is oxidative and biological agent. What grapes do we use? There are three grapes allowed to be used for the denomination of origin. So there's the Palomino Fino, which is the most famous one and the most common one, and is the one used for all dry sherries, and as well used to mix with other sweet wines. And in fact, sometimes you can even find them sweet as well, per se. And then you have the other two grapes, only used for the sherry denomination, only used sweet, which it would be the Moscatel de Alejandría and Pedro Jimenez. These are the two other grapes. However, these ones you can find them as well dry sherries, and even Montilla Moriles, for example, is the perfect example to find a similar type of wine like this one, fortified, but instead of using the Palomino mainly, they use Pedro Ximenez grape, and it's a dry type of wine. I'm very interested. So what is criadera and solera? And as you can see in the image right now, you will be able to see that there's different rows of sherry casks. So what was the purpose of this type of aging system? Well, the first one, it was to actually make sherry standardized. So what does this mean? Well, what it means is that by mixing this sherry from one to the other, at the end you are basically creating a standardized type of wine with all the vintages that has been passing through that cask from before. There's always going to be a small amount. Now, how it works is basically bottled from the bottom. So the bottom line is called solera, and that's why it's criaderas, which are the other rows, and the solera. Solera is the one closer to soil. Now this one will be the amount of sherry that you've bottled. It will be filled up with a criadera, first criadera, which will be the row above. This one will be filled up with a row above, and this one, until the last one, it will be filled up with the wine from this year, from September. Usually is when the vintage starts. This new sherry sobre tabla, this type of wine that is added by then, is the sobre tablas. It's usually newly made wine mixed with a 50% of mix of new wine together with distilled alcohol. And now is when we arrive to the next type of differentiations of sherry: oxidative, biological. Okay, so if it's biological, it will be fortified. What we were saying, that mix of alcohol, it will be 15%. However, if it's oxidative, it will be fortified to around 17.5, 17%. The biological part is when it ages in contact with a layer of yeast. This yeast, it separates the oxygen from the wine. So for the biological agent, it won't be filled up the full American cask to the top. It will be filled up 2/3 usually, and leaving a small amount of part filled with oxygen. So then the layer of yeast that grows on top of this wine, it will prevent the oxygen touching the wine and oxidating it. Now what this does, it adds complexity to the wine by adding notes of bakery and adding notes of yeastiness, similar to champagne could give. However, on the other side, we have the oxidative. The oxidative, it could fill up to the top of the cask. Now that we've learned about the different types of grapes used for making sherry, the way it's aged, the criaderas and solera, and as well learning about biological and oxidative, we're now ready to be able to understand how each wine, each type of sherry is made. And I hope you follow me to the next video, and then I'll be able to show you much more.